Hello, everyone, and welcome to the FTGU Media show. I am your host, Laura Stewart. What is FTGU, you ask? It stands for From the Ground Up, because here we believe that anything worth having, you can't take the shortcuts. You gotta start with the foundation. And so we're here trying to help all of our listeners and viewers educate themselves on how to build a personal brand online through content creation. I have an incredible guest with me today from the US. His name is Jayson Siano, and I gotta admit, Jayson or Jay?
Jay's good. We're homies. We're all family.
Perfect. I love that. Okay, so Jay, I got to admit, I've been stalking you online for like the last 2 weeks, and particularly this morning, I was doing quite a deep dive on you, and I was kind of going to come up with my bio for you, but you're up to a lot of shit, Jay. So I'm going to let you explain to the audience yourself what you do.
Yeah, for sure. So I think it's very suiting. First off, Laura, thank you for having me. Very happy to be here. I love the name of the company and of the show because I'm a 20-year overnight success in real estate. So I have absolutely been grinding my face off for 20 years, 7 days a week, ridiculous amounts of hours a day, essentially to get where I am now. So everything that you said about, not taking the shortcut and the easy route is kind of, how I got to where I am now. I'm the most patient person on the planet in terms of decades and the most impatient person on the planet in terms of 24-hour periods. So I call it aggressive patience. You've probably heard that if you pay attention to Andy Frisella. I started out exactly 20 years ago in commercial real estate and was provided with a desk, a phone, a computer, and a bunch of maps. I'm based in New York. I travel the U.S. I cover the entire country at this point. I am the CEO and founder of a company called Sabre Advisors. So I've evolved from, starting to represent small businesses in my backyard in a, 50 to 75 mile radius 20 years ago. About 3 years into the business, I had the opportunity to pitch the Starbucks coffee account in New York. I landed that account, and we still actually represent Starbucks in that territory now about 17 years later. And from there, I, kind of was traveling in Los Angeles, visiting friends, and I happened upon a concept called Chipotle. I was instrumental in bringing Chipotle to New York back in early 2000s, also right around that time. And from there, I started to evolve and grow my territory and became really just provided so many opportunities to work with founders and entrepreneurs. Started with a little company called Orange Theory Fitness when they had 0 locations, helped them, design their national strategy and execute that back in like 2010. That's what I do now is really, I work with brands to help them design their strategy for the US and Canada. And it's amazing what we do. It's super fun. It's super niche, but a lot of hard work as well.
My God, Jay, I feel like we're kindred spirits in a way, because you've said a lot of things that resonate with me. A, I love Starbucks. B, I eat a lot of Chipotle. And C, I am an Orange Theory member myself. So we're kindred spirits for sure. But it's interesting when yeah, exactly. But how you started in commercial real estate. So that's what really caught my attention. So my husband's in commercial real estate. And I got to tell you, it's kind of a snooze fest in terms of what they're doing from an advertising and personal branding perspective. I tell him all the time, like, look, you got to get on camera. You got to have a bit more of a presence and developing your own personal brand. And he's like, that's not what we do here. This isn't like residential real estate. It's suit and tie, and you don't really promote yourself as much as you promote the company you work for. So I would love to hear from you, and maybe you could help me a little bit on what would I say to someone like that who's just like, personal branding is not for me. It doesn't fit with my industry. I don't want to like step out and be kind of in the spotlight in that respect. Like, what do you do with a client like that?
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like you like basically teed me up for my favorite subject on the planet, which is yes, commercial real estate is very tired, traditional, and boring. Most CEOs of companies in commercial real estate do not have bleached white hair that's so white it's almost blue, um, and rock Aaliyah shirts and do other
I
things.
noticed that.
Yeah,
I'm a
so
fan. I'm a fan.
yeah, so you know what? It's funny because for the first 15 years of my career, including the first 5 years at Sabre, I was very, I felt like I was like just a shell of myself, and coming out and being my true self when I was done dropping the client off, or when I became close enough with somebody that I could actually be my true self. And I decided right around the age of 40 that I was going to just be myself in every circumstance. And people at that point could either choose to work with me or not. Fortunately, I've had the track record and the network and credibility, to kind of get to that point in my career where I was confident enough in my abilities that I am very good at what I do. So I just assumed that people would still want to work with me. And that was fortunately the case. If anything, actually, people wanted to work with me more because there was, such um, I gave people kind of a real window into like who I am as a person beyond what my job is. And,
Right.
That's really been the magic for me. I also, to go take it a step further, I'm betting heavily on the fact that the future for commercial real estate is all about the individual, right? It's about the individual agent. It's not about the big company name. And I know that because, if I was told by a company that I couldn't use social media platforms to develop a personal brand, or had to put that company's name up in lights ahead of my own name, it wouldn't work for me. And I like to think that, I'm a little ahead of the curve when it comes to these things. I'm doing it, a long time, focused on personal branding in real estate a long time, on video a long time, several hundred episodes of a weekly vlog in at this point. And yeah, so
I noticed that. Like you're up to like almost 300 or something, right?
Yeah, I'm getting there. Yeah.
That's a commitment. I got to tell you, we've been doing a blog around here, and we're at a couple dozen, and it's quite a feat. So kudos to you for that.
Thank you.
You mentioned something that like, once you got to 40, when you started to feel a little more comfortable, and obviously you had a book of business already, so you were like, let me show them a little bit more of myself, or you were already doing that, and now you were just kind of promoting that online. What would your advice be for, say, the 20-year-old who's, right out of school, they're getting into the real estate industry, and they're like, I don't know, if I start showing myself, I might turn off everybody. Do you feel like you kind of have to wait to get a couple notches in your belt, for lack of a better word, before you really showcase who you are on social media? Or you just say right from the get, you wish if you had gone back, you would have started earlier?
It depends. I think, again, who is your ideal client, right? And what are you trying to attract? I think you have to really truly understand your strategy. Again, on the commercial side, you're going to be judged a lot quicker by the CEO, founder of a company. If you're walking around with short sleeves and tattoos all over, than you would be if you're selling homes to athletes, right? Like if you're selling homes to athletes or celebrities, like they want you to show up, and being like-minded to, how they are, et cetera, et cetera. But, the same thing happened again when I started to just be myself in my business. I do a lot of work with fitness, wellness companies, a lot of work with restaurants and hospitality companies. And when you show up and you're, meeting with the owners of a restaurant, when you walk up in a suit and tie, buttoned up, it looks like you're basically like trying to be their financial advisor, right? Or you're from the bank and you want to help them with financing. So I think that for young people, you have to. On the commercial side, I could speak to that because it's really where I reside. I think you do have to get to a certain point. Like I feel like you have to act a certain way and do things you don't necessarily want to do until you get to a place that you're able to actually do what you want to do.
Right.
And it's not just developing a personal brand and using social media. I think you just have to realize that you could, if you're too in people's faces out of the gate, it could actually be counterproductive and work.
So you kind of got to earn it. so to speak, especially on the commercial side?
Especially on the commercial side, I would, yes, because at the end of the day, if people, by the way, when I started vlogging many years ago, my almost the entire industry like talked shit about the vlogs and, Jay's a real estate person. Why is he on video? Why does he have a videographer following him around? Da, 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 da. Who the hell is he? Right. And, now several years later, it's like those same people who really didn't understand the concept of it, and like to talk negatively about what I was doing have not only become fans of what I'm doing, they're like students of what I'm doing. I'm actually helping them do it themselves in their business, because the reality is money follows attention, right? And money doesn't lead, it follows. So, and that goes hand in hand. I mean, the reality is that you have to understand that if you're not top of mind, just, if you're not using brand to give you the opportunity to sell, you're never going to have something to sell. So for me, branding myself and branding my company, which by the way, is very much an extension of myself. Like, it's more important to me that agents that work for Sabre brand themselves than brand Sabre. I don't need them to brand Sabre. I've got that covered.
Right.
And
Sabre
by the way,
will get the business one way or another, as long as they're branding themselves and doing what they're supposed to do.
Correct. And
Jay,
I just want to add real quickly, I'm in the human development business. I'm also good at real estate, but I'm developing humans to be better today than they were yesterday. And a lot of that has to do with developing a personal brand and being able to show up and do things that you enjoy doing and you're passionate about, because that's how I got where I am. I don't feel like I'm working a day in my life. So I think that's extremely important. So you need to be lined up with the right team and the right people that give you the resources and help you do what you need to do in order to be successful today and forward. I would say to the commercial real estate people that you asked me earlier, what would I say to them? I would say, you're going to be invisible in the not so distant future. And I know for a fact that influencers with big followings are going to be able to sell a shit ton more real estate than legacy real estate people who have been really good at selling real estate in the dark ages. It's irrelevant.
I hope my husband's listening once and for all. He heard it from Jay himself. I want to take it a little bit philosophical for a second before we get tactical, because at the end of the day, I feel like a big reason people don't do this is just fear. You had mentioned earlier that people were looking at you like, what the heck is this guy doing? Like, how full of it himself is he, having a camera guy coming around, following around and always on the camera? It's like, taking selfies and taking video. I suffer from this myself. Like, I feel kind of stupid sometimes when I'm taking videos and whatnot. And I also sometimes worry that, like, who wants to listen for me? Like, who said I'm the expert and what I have to say is worthy of being, promoted out to the world? What's your advice for people in that? Because obviously you don't have that fear, or maybe you do, but you just suppress it. What's your advice to those people, including myself?
For sure. I mean, listen, you cannot live in fear of other people's opinions, and that's the most simplest thing. But I also seek discomfort. So the whole camera thing for me was always uncomfortable, but I feel like I'm growing as a result of that discomfort, right? So for me, the minute something becomes comfortable, I need to push myself more into something that's uncomfortable so I can grow, right? It's the same thing as working out. Like, if you're not pushing yourself physically, you're probably not going to get the same results. So that's what I would say as far as, doing the things that might seem foreign. Now, here's the thing that I would challenge anybody who thinks it's egotistical to do these things. It's quite the opposite. It's very humbling, because I'm a real estate professional walking around the streets of New York City with a videographer. I'm not a celebrity. I'm not an actor or a musician. So I'm not shit as far as that goes. And I'm not trying to be somebody that's fronting like I'm that. I am, however, an expert at what I do. And I would argue that I'm as good, if not better, at anybody at scaling companies across the country. And that comes with the amount of experience that I have and the clients that I'm fortunate enough to work with. So again, anybody can talk shit about whether or not I should be using these platforms, whether I should dye my hair, whatever. At the end of the day, I'm better than them at what I do, and I'm happy to back that up at any point. So I don't think, it's that some people who have not achieved that level of success and become an expert and a thought leader in an industry maybe can't use the tools the same way. And but I think it's all about just doing something. You don't have to do it to the same extent or extreme that other people are, but you have to start doing something, and you start small and grow into it as you progress over time.
Well, and it's always useful for people who aren't necessarily at the top of their game and they're just learning or they're just getting started is do shows like this. Bring on the experts. You don't have to be the expert. You can just be throwing the party essentially, and you're bringing in the people and you're connecting people and you're just learning along with all of your listeners and viewers, and they're just happy that you let them be a fly on the wall for that conversation. So that's always a good place to start as well.
That's also an advantage, by the way. Like if I think about it now, if I was able to like video and put out content about my entire career, like when I started, before I actually achieved any level of success, like that would be more interesting to watch. So for the people out there that are earlier on in their career, it's that much more important because you can tell your whole story. If you go back on Sabre's YouTube, you're only still seeing 25% of my story, even though I started, dialoguing, cataloging everything, many years ago.
The come up's the best part, right?
Best part.
Okay, so I want to get a little bit tactical for some people. They're thinking, okay, I got it. Like I have a little bit of fear, but I think I can express that because I want more. Maybe I'm a real estate agent or just a salesperson in general. Where do I start? What would be your advice to them? Like, where do they start? Is it like I should start on one app? Is it I should come up with a whole brand strategy first? What do you advise your clients?
Yeah, I'm heavy into the digital marketing stuff and help people also because, again, it comes along with the territory. It's basically a big part of the real estate equation at this point. So, I tell people to lean into what comes natural to them, right? Like I am a good writer. I don't enjoy writing. Video, you get a camera out and I'm ready to go. One take. I don't need to prep. I don't really care so much about like how I look on camera. I'm not as like self-conscious of those things. So it's a non-issue for me. You can tell me we're recording in 5 minutes and I'll wing it and it'll be good enough to put out in the universe. I am a firm believer.
Men. This is a man thing.
You are the man who got his hair dyed 5 minutes ago. Versus you who still can't.
True, touche, Jay.
So, let's keep it real. But at the same time, I think it's very important. Listen, in life, the only way you're going to achieve greatness is by doing things you're passionate about, right? If it seems too tedious, if you're not looking forward to it, if it's really, really painful and you're not enjoying it, you're not going to get very far. Again, 20 years in and day out, I still I wake up every day excited and I feel like I truly am not working. I would rather be doing this right now with you than sitting on a beach sipping a pina colada. It's just how I'm wired. That gives me anxiety. The thought of going and chilling out. And if you told me that I had to go sit on a beach for a week straight, I would tell you I'm not going. All expenses paid, I'm not going. No interest. So I think that's really you have to understand who you are and not pretend, not act like somebody else. You need to figure out truly what you're comfortable doing, what you're good at. By the way, super important to understand what you're good at and what you're not good at, right? This is all people, I think, sometimes don't have self-awareness. They don't truly understand what they're good at, what they're not good at. And you need to figure that out. And by the way, when you're able to figure that out, you can surround yourself with a team of people that are good at the things that you're not good at.
So when you say what you're good at, what you're not good at, are you talking about if, I'm actually a pretty great writer. That's actually where I kind of started because I was nervous of the camera. I was nervous of the mic. And so I was like, well, why don't I start with a blog? Just putting out the written word, my ideas. Again, I was nervous because I was like, who's going to care to read that? So that was me going outside my comfort zone, right? And then as I got more comfortable with that, then I needed a new challenge. So then it became audio in just a podcast format. And then it was like, okay, I got to push myself outside that comfort zone and go to the camera. I mean, the camera, the video being, I think, the holy grail, though. Would you have to admit when it comes to content creation?
I would, because again, it's a noisy world and it's only getting more noisy. So, however, there are people that are able to really translate, from with writing and things of that nature. But I agree. I mean, video is by far on all of these platforms. LinkedIn, you can get pretty far, with written word for sure. But most of the other platforms are definitely more visual than they are audio, obviously, aside from Clubhouse and different things of that nature. And Clubhouse is amazing. It's been very, very productive for our business.
I've met some incredible people like you on Clubhouse. So definitely an app for people to check it if they haven't done so already. But having said that, a lot of people are like, oh no, another app, right? Like, what's this thing called Clubhouse? I just got on TikTok and I feel like I'm supposed to be dancing on TikTok, and on LinkedIn, I'm supposed to be wearing my suit and tie. And on Instagram, I'm supposed to be taking model shots, and Facebook, I'm supposed to be cute with my dog. Like, it's a lot to a lot of people just to feel like, I don't know what my persona should be. I don't even know where to start. Now as soon as I get used to one platform, there's a new platform. What are your tips on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, you have to stick with the platforms that you're most comfortable with, but you have to learn the others, right? But it doesn't mean you have to be an expert at all of them, right? For me, I barely use Facebook, which I should use it more. I know that. I use LinkedIn, but again, I should be using it more. But I also know the audiences, and I try to create native content for each platform. So I'm not just pushing out one thing onto all of the different platforms, because it's not going to get the reach that you want it to get if you do that, if you don't create something with the platform in mind. But it's very advanced stuff that's tough to do as a solo practitioner. Again, I've built my company up, and we have a digital media team within the company, because that's how important it is to me. Like, if I'm reducing overhead, it's definitely not my marketing. It's definitely not my media team. Like, that is the absolute heart of my business, and I'm in real estate. So I think that, that should tell people a lot about, like, the future of our industry and how important it is to really become good at marketing. But I would say just to dive in initially with a platform that you just like using, because but at the same time, you have to really think about what the end goal is, and you have to reverse engineer how to get there, right? So who's your target audience? The TikTok audience is way different than the Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn audience. You described them very well in short clips. You gave me a visual. Yeah. I was able to see exactly who's watching all of your platforms, and you're spot on. So if you're looking to do something that's going to be geared towards younger people, TikTok's the place to go. For me, I need to build up my presence so I stay relevant over time, right? So the TikTok generations that are focused there are going to be the people that I'm going to be doing business with in the future. Now, I have plenty of people that are in their 40s that are heavy on TikTok and doing a great job in real estate on TikTok. But, they're winning business on TikTok as a result of being on TikTok, because in real estate, especially on the commercial side, they stick out because it's less noisy, right? There's a million commercial real estate people on LinkedIn, but There's less on TikTok. So what's your strategy, right? What is the end goal, and what is the right strategy that you can implement to get there? Who's your audience? What type of clients do you want, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, Jay, I feel like we have a similar strategy in terms of our content producing model, and that's produce one kind of macro piece of content or pillar piece of content, take from that, chop it up in a couple different ways. So obviously we're going to put this podcast episode up on all the audio platforms. I have it video recorded. I'm going to put it up on YouTube. Then we're going to take all the little bits and pieces that you said that were fire comments, and we're going to throw those up on Instagram and the Facebooks and the LinkedIn. And I want people to understand that what really works is just getting a little bit creative with it. So let's say you're a commercial real estate agent and you're like, there is no way in hell I'm dancing. I haven't danced in a bar or a club in 30 years. TikTok is not for me. I want you to just try to think outside the box a little bit and get back on that app, because it's changed a lot from when it started, which, yeah, I mean, that's what we saw a lot on, but these apps change all the time. Now, a lot of people can do very well with just giving quick tips to people. And you'd be surprised that works in the Instagram Reel as well as in the TikTok. So it's not necessarily always what you think it's going to be. Just get creative with your content. And it's incredible what you can do with just breaking down your content into these bite-sized pieces and then putting a caption that is specific to the audience. So again, let's say you're speaking to people on LinkedIn and you're trying to attract actual buyers there. You're going to speak differently than if you're really just speaking to kind of like the broader community on Instagram. So make sure your tone in the caption changes where the video can actually be quite similar. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. However, I will add that, TikTok changed how people consume content, period. And it's going to have a major impact on how you're going to have to create content to stay relevant. So it's almost like it's up the ante, where I have been very I don't need to do TikToks. I don't need to do reels, because they have to be relatively highly produced. They take time. Like for me, I'm more of like walking around documenting what I would be doing otherwise. Somebody on the team's filming me. They're taking that, throwing it into a vlog, literally doing the production on their own. When it comes to a TikTok or a reel, like I have to be heavily involved in my mind, storyboarding what the reel is going to be, and then actually recording the content and then producing it myself and pushing it out, which I've learned to do, quite honestly, in the last few weeks. And it's fun, but it takes time. And I'm still, I'm tweaking for myself. I changed my Instagram. I'm heaviest on Instagram. But I've started to really think about like how I can have more impact for my audience and grow my business. And, I have not been doing enough quick content like reels that is straight to the point with top 3 this. Have you ever considered, do you want to know why? Like all of that stuff. And I have so much, I could do with all the clients that I have that are interesting to learn more about. So I anticipate that I'm going to start to do more of that. But I think you always have to be, again, pushing yourself and understanding how to stay relevant.
Well, and for the listeners who are like, I'm doing a lot, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. We could all be doing more, to your point, Jay. Like there's always room for growth. There's always another platform you could get onto. So more is more in the content creation world. And so I appreciate you saying that, because I'm at home, like I want people to understand, like when I'm at home on my elliptical or when I'm on my rowing machine, I'm thinking of like, okay, what's my reel going to be? And I have a notepad or I take notes in my phone. I'm thinking of content that I could produce. And I did a reel over the weekend. It took me like an hour for me to put it together. And that's not always the best use of people's time. Obviously, if you're starting out and you don't have an executive assistant or you don't have a media squad, you don't have help, you're going to have to put those reps in yourself, and you're going to have to do that at the end of the day and on the weekends. And it's not always glamorous, right? But that's the name of the game here. And then obviously in time, as you grow, I always say like the biggest thing, salespeople, that you could help yourselves with is just getting an EA as soon as possible. I just got one a couple months ago, and it's been a complete game changer in my life. And it allows her to do other things for me, so I can actually create the reel, because I'm not worried about like, so getting paperwork to the client and figuring stuff like that out, or where's the check? We need to go courier something. My EA can handle that, so I can focus more on the media, or vice versa. If you hire somebody who's great at media and they happen to be your EA, then they can take some of that off your plate. Of course, if you want to take it to the next level, then you do what Jay does and you hire an entire staff to help out.
Yeah, I mean, but again, it's not just for me. Like I do it because I also have a business that I'm trying to really provide the best tools and resources so agents can get an education on how to do this. And, because again, I think it's critical to being a successful agent in the future, not for somebody who's in their later years and retiring in the next 5 to 7 years, whatever, no big deal. But if you're like early on in this business, you better get really, really good at marketing yourself, marketing your product, because if you're not, somebody else is. And at the end of the day, money follows attention.
And I feel like that's where we leave it off today, Jay, because you nailed it on the head there. Unless you have any other tips for our listeners.
I would just say, like you said, just, put as much out there in the universe, progress over perfection, and surround yourself with amazing people.
Jay, thank you so much for joining us. Where can our audience find you, get a hold of you if they need?
Yeah, so all platforms, Jayson Siano, JaysonSiano. I'm most active on Instagram. DM me. Sabre on YouTube, Sabre Real Estate, Sabre RealEstate, and Sabre Real Estate on all platforms as well.
Awesome. I'll make sure that the team puts everything in the descriptions, all the links and everything. And Jay, we're opening up back here in Toronto this Friday. So if you ever find your way up here, we got to go out for a beer. It's been such a pleasure.
We're going to do that. I'm going to make it happen. You were excellent. Thank you so much. This was fun. And you're super smart and your tactics are spot on. So people should pay attention.
Awesome. I really appreciate that, Jay. Thanks so much. Take care.
Be well.